What's going on, y'all? It is the Mission Ready Men podcast. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, and I am so happy to be here with you today. This is the second live broadcast of the Mission Ready Men podcast. So I thank all of you for your feedback from the first one. We had a couple of technical issues that I pray we got worked out. But we have a packed show for you today. We have the leftists melting down in a in an epic fashion. Republicans have taken the House and the Senate and the White House, so Republicans are in control of all three branches. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Trump is already making America great again, and it's only been a week, and he's not even inaugurated yet. So we'll get into that a little bit as well, and a number of other things that I hope we get to. Like I said, it's a packed show, and I hope we can get to all. So with that, let's get after it. So, like I said at the beginning, the left is epically melting down, and on one hand, it's pretty funny to behold, and on the other hand, it's kind of sad, and it's sad because some of the things that they're saying, some of the things that are being blamed, it's just the lack of self-awareness of these people is just off the charts. It boggles the mind that they are so unaware. Now there are some who are trying to sound the alarm, and I can't think of their names right now, but they're like Van Jones is one, crying Van Jones. We're gonna get into that a little bit too. Van Jones, like I said, a couple of other ones who understand what happened, who realize that they have gone too far left, realize that their messaging was completely off. But it doesn't seem like a lot of people are listening. But there are some, like this video that I'm about to play for you. His name is Eddie Glaude, and he is a professor. I'm not sure what he's a professor of at Princeton, but he is a professor at Princeton. And he has he has some thoughts. So let's listen to what Professor Eddie Glaude has to say. Anyway, well, it is. It's wokeism is complete BS. But let's continue. What is he even talking about? I mean, that 15, 20 seconds made absolutely no sense. But it continues. So how does he explain all the Hispanic men and all the black men who voted for him? It has nothing. It has absolutely nothing to do with whiteness, as he likes to say. Exactly. The, here it comes. This is this is an epic meltdown. All right, so it seems that there was no sound for that. Unfortunately, I thought we had those technical issues worked out. Apparently not. So let me just say, Stephanie Rule is actually trying to make a little bit of sense. While she said um, she's not defending why people voted for him, but she's saying that they voted for Trump because things were too expensive, prices were too high, and Eddie Glaude, in his effeminate splendor, is saying that he can't believe that people would vote for a crook. He calls Trump a crook, a racist, and everything else. He says that he can't believe that people voted for him just because prices were too high. It's the economy, stupid. That is, I really don't understand people like this. And I deal with a lot of them in my social media, um, in my social media feeds. People who are willing to deal with astronomical prices, willing to deal with foreign wars all over the place, willing to deal with everything that we're dealing with, just because Trump is bad, Orange Man bad. And what that tells me is that they hate him more than they love this country, and more than they love their families, because their families suffer as a result of this nonsense. So it really it really boggles my mind that this is where these people um, come from. I really don't get it. And since there was no sound, we're gonna have to pivot a little bit and just get into some of the blame game that's going around from the left. We just heard, well, we didn't hear Eddie Glaude, but I told you about Eddie Glaude and his basically blaming the country for electing a crook. And Nancy Pelosi, she blames Biden for not getting out of the race soon enough. She thinks that somehow if Biden had gotten out of the race, then um, Kamala would have had a better shot. I don't buy that for I don't buy that for a second. She was just a terrible candidate, and she did it to herself. She did it to her. Well, the people who put her in these positions did it to her ultimately, but she didn't help herself with some of the things she said while she was out on the campaign trail. And then you had harpies on the View, like Sonny Hostin, blaming misogyny for Trump getting elected. Even while one of the alleged conservatives on the View, she tried to point out the fact that there's a district in a county in South Texas, right on the border, that is 97% Hispanic voted for President Trump. And according to Sonny Hostin, that is due to misogyny, not the fact that the border is overrun with illegal aliens, not the fact that people's property on the border is being overrun, not the fact that people have to defend themselves from these illegal aliens on the border. That had nothing to do with it. It was misogyny, according to Sonny Hostin. Just ridiculous. So it's misogyny, and racist white men are to blame, and misogynistic Hispanic men are to blame. Now, one group of men that I'm glad came out, although they didn't come out as much as I would have liked, but they did come out, and that's Christian men. Christian men did vote, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but Christian men did show up more than I expected, given how many said in surveys that they were going to sit out. 30 to 40 million, depending on which one you looked at, said that they weren't going to vote. So according to the left, the country's to blame, Biden's to blame, misogynistic, racist men are to blame, Christian men are to blame. But one group of people who are not to blame, who came out in massive support of Kamala, are this new version of masculine male that Dana Bash talked about. I mentioned that on a previous show. The low T guys like Harry Sisson, Sissy Girl Pants, as Graham Allen likes to call him. Leonard McKelvey, who some people know as Charlemagne, and I'm not going to give him that. You know who I'm talking about, the host of the Breakfast Club. Although he's not as effeminate as some of these guys that I've talked about and that I'm about to talk about. But I don't see how a man could have voted for Kamala Harris. I just don't see it. Not a man with normal testosterone levels, because we got guys like Doug Emhoff, her husband, who was spouting off about toxic masculinity, and Eddie Glaude, who we just showed, although you couldn't hear him, but Eddie Glaude at the end of that clip. You know what? Let me see if I can pull it up, because at the end of the clip, he says a bad word, and his expression afterwards is is absolutely priceless. And you kind of got that he was feeling that he was a little bit light in the loafers, as all right, I can't pull it up. I'm not gonna. Anyway, look it up. It's on Mediaite, and he proved with that one gesture that he's on the low T side of things. And pretty much every white guy for Harris, all of these guys, low T, effeminate, emotional guys, like Tim Walz. And I had a clip of Tim Walz, but I'm afraid that the sound's not going to be there. And actually, I don't know that you really need it. So let me see if we can pull that one up, and just so you can see what I'm talking about here, because it's anyway. Let's check this out. Look at this. Normal guys don't do this. Look at those wild gesticulations. I mean, really? Anyway, that's kind of what I'm talking about. He's right along with them. I don't care how many rifles he shoots. I don't care. I don't care how much camouflage he wears, how much he hunts. He is right along with these low T white guys for Harris. It's really sad. And so I say all that to say, if you find yourself being emotional, and I've seen a lot of these guys online getting very worked up over the fact that she lost and Trump won. If you're emotional over this, because the conservatives, when Trump lost last time, we were upset, absolutely, but we went to work. We just kept it moving, and hoped and prayed that next time around, if it wasn't Trump, somebody else would get in who would help us out. And so if you find yourself in this position where you're emotional over the loss of Kamala Harris, then you need to get your T levels checked seriously, because men with normal testosterone levels don't let their emotions rule them. And you can actually see some evidence of this. And I'm not a scientist or anything like that. This is just my observations, obviously. But you can look. Jeff Bezos, he started showing up with his shirt off and looking like he's been hitting the gym and whatnot. And then he decided he wasn't going to have his paper endorse Kamala Harris. Mark Zuckerberg, he started getting into MMA and working out, getting himself into shape. And he said that when Trump got up and pumped his fist and told everybody to fight, that was one of the most badass things he'd ever seen. And he hasn't been as vocal against Trump as he had been in the past. So maybe, I know he probably can't really be vocal without hurting his business, which hopefully he'll get over that at some point. But my point is, if you can't let your emotions influence your decision making. And there is a biblical reference for that. Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? And that may seem somewhat out of context, but hear me out, because when people talk about the heart, that's what they're talking about, their emotions. They're talking about letting the things that letting their emotions, that love, hate, whatever the case may be, all of that can trick you. All of that can deceive you. And I've said a number of times, you can't reason someone out of a position that they reached through emotion. And so all these guys, like I mentioned, Harry Sisson and Leonard McKelvey and Eddie Glaude, all these guys are super emotional. And no matter how much logic and reason and evidence you throw at them, they're not going to change their position. I see it all the time on social media. These people absolutely hate Donald Trump, and they let that hatred of him override their logical thinking, their logical thought process, because there is absolutely no way somebody who lived under Trump and lived under Biden and Harris can say that they want 4 more years of Biden and Harris. It doesn't make any sense. And the only explanation for that is they're emotionally invested in not having Trump in office, even though the consequences of Kamala winning, if she had won, would have been the suffering of their family, their finances, the world, because the world would have been thrown into even more chaos. There would have been more war. And for those of them who had kids, their kids probably would have ended up drafted into service and serving overseas in these wars that mean absolutely nothing to us. And it's just more proof that these people will blame everything and everyone but themselves because they let their emotions get in the way of what is obvious, which is that Kamala Harris was a terrible candidate. She was a terrible, terrible candidate. She was a DEI hire, and I know people hate it when I say that, but I don't care because it's true. And it's true because her boss said so. Her boss said, and people just ignore this. Her boss said he was going to hire, he was going to pick as his running mate a Black woman. That limited his options severely. He had one Black woman, I think she's now the mayor of LA, who is a communist. Kamala Harris and maybe what's her name from Georgia? Stacey Abrams. That was it. Those are your choices. And every last one of them would have been terrible. And he picked what he thought was probably the least terrible option, which turned out to be, well, I don't know if you can really quantify which one would be worse, but she was a terrible candidate, and she didn't distance herself from any of the terrible policies that Biden implemented. She even attached herself to them and said she was there and she was part of the decision-making process of all the policies of consequence. She said it. And all of that led to the last disastrous 4 years. The border is overrun. And she was the border czar. No matter how much she tries to deny it, it's in black and white in the congressional record. So she can just forget trying to get people to ignore that, because she was the border czar. She was in charge, and it got exponentially worse. So none of that could possibly be the reason why she lost. It was because men are bad, and therefore everyone who voted for him is bad, and we're a bad country because of it. That's the reason, or that's their reason, which makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, let's go ahead and, well, you know what? Before we move on, let's have a word from our sponsor, myfreedombeef.com. And let me just tell you something. If you've ever ordered anything from any of the other meat subscription places, any of the other places where you can order your meat online, a lot of them are good. We've used a lot of them. We've used, and I'm not going to name them because this is for My Freedom Beef, but we've used a few of them and they've been okay. But I got to tell you, when we got our meat from My Freedom Beef, we had some fillets that were easily restaurant quality. And it's not like we're chefs. It's not like we're Michelin star chefs or anything like that. We've cooked our share of meat, so we know how to do it. And those fillets were as tender and juicy as you could possibly imagine. Like I said, restaurant quality. And we had some ribeyes as well, which were super juicy as well and flavorful. It was easily the best meat that we've gotten that wasn't from a local butcher. And from My Freedom Beef, the meat that you order will be from a butcher local to you. So there's that. So if you're interested in getting some restaurant quality meat, head over to myfreedombeef.com/Jackson and get yourself a discount, and we will be you will not be disappointed. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. So check it out, myfreedombeef.com/Jackson, and get yourself some good quality meat. All right, let's get into some good news here because, well, lately it's all been good news, right? But the Republicans, as of this morning, have finally taken the House. There are 6 races left to be called. Okay. Can we talk about this for a second? Florida counted over 11 million ballots in a matter of hours, and we're done. Completely done on election night. They had everything counted on election night. Here it is a week later, exactly a week later, and there are still 6 races left to be called, and a couple of them just got called yesterday. How is that possible? How is that even remotely possible? And the only thing I can think of is they're trying to cheat. Like I am fairly certain. No, I am 100% certain that if that election in Arizona were legit, Kari Lake would be the next senator from the state of Arizona, and it would be we'd have 54 senators instead of just 53. That's the only explanation. There's no reason, because these other states don't have anywhere near the number of ballots that Florida had to count, and it's taken them a week. Come on, that makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, Republicans now have a mandate. They have a mandate. They control all 3 branches of government. And so for the next 2 years, they need to set about getting stuff done. And I say 2 years because the midterms will be coming up, and the midterms usually favor the party that's not in power. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. I don't think they're going to lose in the midterms, but it could happen. They could figure out a better way to cheat. Who knows? So for at least 2 years, Republicans have the ability to make some serious, permanent change. And they need to do it because Trump won the popular vote as well as a landslide electoral college vote. So there really is no excuse at this point. There really is no excuse. Now, historically, the Republicans have squandered these opportunities, and I'm really praying that they understand what's at stake now and will follow through and uphold the mandate that they've been given. There is one minor hiccup that that could, I won't say it will stop all progress, but it is a problem. Mitch McConnell, he snuck in a vote for majority leader. He snuck it in on the calendar for tomorrow, I believe. And Mitch McConnell has opposed Trump pretty much at every turn. And the 3 people who are in the running to take the Senate majority leader spot, 2 of them have been basically never Trumpers. They're Democrats in Republican districts. They're leftists. John Thune and John Cornyn, who is a rep from a senator from Texas, and he is terrible. He is he really needs to go. He just needs to go. And he absolutely does not belong in the leadership spot, in the Senate Majority Leader spot. He does not. He's a leftist. And so is John Thune. They both have opposed Trump every step of the way. Rick Scott is the other one. And a lot of people, a lot of conservatives, Dan Bongino, he was the first one I heard float his name. And a number of other people are pretty high on Rick Scott. I'm not. And I'm not because he is no friend to the Second Amendment, not by a long shot. He was the governor of Florida when the Parkland shooting happened. And as a result of that, he signed a red flag bill into law. And that was, I mean, red flag laws, we all know red flag laws completely upend due process. They take away your property and then require you to prove your innocence. The state doesn't have to prove that you're guilty of anything. You have to prove that you're innocent of whatever charge, whatever accusation has been leveled at you. And that is completely unconstitutional. But he signed it into law. And he's been a proponent of a national red flag law as well. So he for me is a no-go. I was kind of on the fence until I heard some people talk about it, and then I did my digging and remembered some of the things that he did. And despite the fact that he's been all in for Trump lately, you can't trust him. You can't trust him. And so as soon as you and I are done here, I'm going to be calling Ted Cruz's office and urging him to vote no for all of these people and get some candidates who will be more in line with what the people want. Because apparently these senators are upset that online trolls are getting involved in this. And it's like, it's not online trolls, you idiots. These are the voters. These are the people to whom you are beholden. And so you need to listen to them. But these people are leftists, and leftists are all about power and control. Because if they were really for the people, if they really were for the people, then that wouldn't be an issue. They'd be like, okay, well, let's listen to what the people want. But that's not their way. And so if you haven't done so yet, please call your senator's office and urge them to vote no on all three of these people. And urge them to urge their coworkers to do the same thing. And if you're, I probably should call John Cornyn's office too, just to tell him how bad I think he is as a senator. And you know what? I am going to do that. I am absolutely going to do that because I want to have some fun. And of course, I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to be polite, but I'm going to let them know in no uncertain terms that he is unacceptable as majority leader. But anyway, let's see if we can get some of these other stories in. Trump, as the title of this video is, Trump is making America great again already. And even 72 hours into it, into his election, a lot of things started to happen. And Byron Donalds tweeted this: the Trump effect, and I think that's pretty much what everybody's calling it these days, the Trump effect 72 hours after winning the 2024 election. First female chief of staff appointed, and it's funny, none of the feminists are touting that as this great thing. I wonder why. The stock market hit record highs. Mayor Adams ended the voucher program for illegal aliens. U.S. companies have decided that they are going to bring their operations back to the United States. Putin wants a dialogue with Trump and agrees to sell oil in U.S. dollars. And he's also said that he's willing to look at ending the war in Ukraine. China has signaled that they want a peaceful relationship. Qatar kicked out all the Hamas leaders that they were harboring there. Mexico has agreed to. The EU, the European Union, wants to replace Russian liquid natural gas with American liquid natural gas. I mean, he's not even in office yet. He hasn't been inaugurated. It's been less than a week. Well, it's been a week now. When all this happened, it was less than a week. Mexico agreed to hold migrants in Mexico. But now, let's get to Trump's actual action. All that was just as a result of him winning. He hadn't done anything other than win yet. But Tom Homan was named border czar. And one of the things that I wanted to do was play some Tom Homan clips. He is a no nonsense, just bulldog when it comes to the border. And one of the clips I wanted to play was him telling 60 Minutes, and I can't remember who it was interviewing him, but telling 60 Minutes that when they asked him about deporting family separation, and he said, yeah, we can accomplish it without separating families. We can deport them all, deport the whole family, keep them together. I mean, it was just the first time I saw that, I thought that was absolutely amazing. And he's had famous spars with AOC and Pramila Jayapal in hearings, and he is just relentless. And I don't think there was a better pick. I don't think there could have been a better pick than him. There's a guy that we see on Newsmax who did it, and he might have been pretty good, but I don't think Tom Homan, he just lets it be known he is not having it. He told told illegal aliens at the convention to pack their bags, because when Trump won, Trump was going to clean house, and he tapped that guy to do it. And so, like I said, Trump is already making America great again. And that Tom Homan pick is just amazing. But he's made some other picks as well. Lee Zeldin to head the EPA, Elise Stefanik, ambassador to the UN, Stephen Miller, deputy chief of staff for policy, which I think is great. Stephen Miller has been a great champion of the America First movement. And there are rumors, now this isn't official yet, but there are rumors that Kristi Noem is going to be Secretary of Homeland Security. Some people seem to like that pick. I'm not sure what experience she has in security, but he's made some good picks so far, so I'm willing to give it a shot. And there are also rumors that he is going to name Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. I'm less enthusiastic about that because I'm not sure how much we can really trust Rubio to be on the same page all the time with President Trump. He said and done a lot of the right things recently, so we'll see. Maybe he's done enough to prove himself to Trump that he's the right guy for the job. I'm not sure I would have picked him for Secretary of State, maybe some other cabinet position, but like I said, we'll see how it goes. So my enthusiasm for the next 4 years is very high, because I think that these picks, and he hasn't even really scratched the surface of all the picks that he has to make. And so I'm really looking forward to what he has to offer next. So he is making moves, and in stark contrast, we have Kamala's campaign. And I just saw this graphic this morning, didn't have time to put it in the show, but she raised $1.37 billion. And well, no, she spent 1.37 billion, but she only raised like 1.1 or something like that. So she's 20 million in the hole. And Trump raised 340 something million. And she paid her staff over $500 million. And Trump paid his staff like 10 million. And I only saw the graphic once, so I'm going by memory. I may be off with that, but that's the difference between a businessman and a politician. She outspent him almost 3-1 and still lost. And this is the person that everyone wanted to fix the economy that she said, or that they all said wasn't really broken to begin with. Okay. But she paid her endorse. She paid Oprah $1 million. She paid Meg Thee Stallion, Beyonce, Eminem, Springsteen, Cardi B, J-Lo, some person named Glorilla. Not sure who that is. Oh, yeah, I think I know who that is. You don't need to know. Anyway, James Taylor, Lady Gaga, and the list just goes on and on and on of all these people she paid multiple millions of dollars to and still lost. And then it turns out that she had another concert that she had to cancel because she couldn't afford to pay. I think it was Alanis Morissette, who's Canadian, by the way. But anyway, she had to cancel that concert because she couldn't pay her. What did she do with all that money? I mean, the ROI on that $1 billion that was raised, I'm sure some people are very, very upset right now. Raised over $1 billion and is $20 million in debt. Just that to me is hilarious. That to me is absolutely hilarious. To raise that much money and be that much in debt and still lose. Oh man, I couldn't have happened to a nicer group of people, seriously. Speaking of a nice group of people, FEMA just fired one of their managers for relief discrimination. Now, perhaps you'll recall when Trump was saying during the hurricanes that FEMA was discriminating against people who were in conservative areas. And everyone, and there are montages all over the place of everyone saying that it was a conspiracy theory and it was Trump's lying, and there's no evidence that excuse me, there's no evidence that that FEMA is discriminating on any way, and it's just misinformation and disinformation. Well, Turns out that he was right again. And these conspiracy theories and this misinformation and disinformation almost always turns out to be true. This FEMA worker told in a text, so we have the text, told these FEMA workers to avoid homes that had Trump signs in their yards. Now she lost her job, and that's great, but she should be in jail. She should be under arrest right now, because how many people died as a result of FEMA skipping their homes? I don't know that we'll ever know, but I hope they investigate thoroughly and find out, because that's unacceptable. I mean, you can't, people who are in law enforcement, people who are in first responders, they don't care what your political affiliation is. Not in that moment anyway. They probably won't have a beer with you if you disagree with them on certain things. But if their job is to save your life, that's what they're going to do. And the thought of political affiliation never enters the equation. When I wore a uniform, I don't know the political affiliation of the people whose burning apartment I went into. I don't know. We could guess, obviously, but it didn't matter. I didn't know the political affiliation of any of the people who called us when we responded to report a crime, to report them being the victim of an assault. It didn't matter. It did not matter. So this is just this is criminal. This person belongs in custody, tried, convicted, and sentenced to jail. And depending on if they can find out how many people died as a result of these actions, she may need to spend the rest of her life in jail, because this is unacceptable. This is absolutely unacceptable. All right, y'all. I was going to play a Joy Reid clip, but the sound's not working on some of these clips, so I'm just going to skip it and just say that, well, in the clip, Joy Reid blames Generation X for delivering Trump into the White House. And I am completely okay. As a member of Gen X, I am happy that Gen X stepped up and did the right thing. Gen X is just built different. You know what I mean? And my Gen Xers, y'all know, y'all know. But she tried to, in the clip, and hopefully I'll be able to play it next time. In the clip, she said that Gen X isn't struggling financially, that Gen X has money in the bank, and it's everyone else who's having a problem, and all we wanted was a tax cut. Well, that's not all we wanted. We wanted a secure border. We did want a tax cut. We wanted lower prices. Because just because you, Joyless Reid, are making millions of dollars spouting off a bunch of lies, just because you're a multimillionaire for being an idiot on MSDNC. Not everyone in Gen X has it like that. Some of us in Gen X had businesses ravaged as a result of these policies over the past 4 years. So it's not just a tax cut. But you know what? I'll own it. I will own it gladly. Absolutely gladly. Because there is no way I wanted to deal with another 4 years of Harris's ridiculous policies and all of the consequences that would have happened as a result. She's rich enough to be able to deal with it and be insulated from it. Most of us aren't. And it would have been terrible. But anyway, folks, that's all I got for you today. I will try to do better on the next one. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe, share these episodes so that we can continue to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and the message of hope and liberty so that we can preserve it for future generations. And don't forget to check out SHR Media and check out all the great shows on SHR Media and KLRN Radio. We have The Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean, The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe, and BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon with the one and only BZ. And you've been listening to and watching Big E on the Mission Ready Men podcast. And if you like the shirt that I'm wearing, please don't forget to hit up missionreadymen.com. Click on shop, and you'll see all of the Seven Armors gear there. And hit us up on socials as well, at Mission Ready Men on Twitter, or X if you prefer. I still call it Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and at Mission Ready Men on all three of those platforms. And that's it. So please don't forget to like and follow and share these videos. We need to spread the word. Just because we won this time around, we got to keep our foot on the gas. We can't sit back and be complacent, because if we do that, the left will come roaring back, and we do not want that to happen, do we? So anyway, that's it. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.